Sometimes I get asked about the possibilities available in quantum healing. Sometimes the same question is asked in the opposite way, as in terms of its limits. What actually is possible? Are there any limits? We like to say the possibilities are limitless, but what does that really mean? I am not sure we actually know, but I can tell you about my own experience and a client I once had who seemed to manifest healing that just about every sane person listening to this video will find challenging to believe or accept. What if I told you I once had a client who reversed a birth defect? What else could be possible? What if there were no limits? Let me tell you about a client named Lisa. In 2014, Lisa contacted me for a quantum healing session and described the reason she wanted to have this experience in this way. I am a healer, she said, and I believe a good one. I have helped many of my clients have a healthier and happier life. I cannot seem to heal myself, however, and I want to find out the reason why and hopefully learn how to do so. Lisa arrived at my office in a lovely flourish of colorful scarves and clothing and crystal jewelry. She had an air of peace about her and truly exuded a vibration of love. I anticipated a great session and was not disappointed. Lisa was in her mid-60s. She was a practicing Reiki and crystal healer in a large metropolitan city. She had a busy practice and a happy and satisfied clientele. She had many friends, and her life was happy, content, and satisfied, save for her own physical condition. She was the first child in her family and had been born severely prematurely at a time when our medical profession was not as adept at saving these tiny babies as they are today. She actually was born at home, and she told me she was born at 28 weeks gestation and weighed only about 1.5 pounds. Her mother was also traumatized during the birth and was hemorrhaging. The doctor and the family did not even expect the baby to survive. As I recall, she told me they put her in a shoebox. They put her on top of the dresser. And then the family completely focused on her mother during this time, thinking there would be no living baby. As an infant, Lisa had a lot of trouble breathing. Obviously, she survived, but she didn't thrive. She was a sickly baby and caught every illness that came around. They told her her lungs were scarred and small, and she had severe asthma her entire life. She was taking various medications and had inhalers, and they just weren't working at all anymore. And to add to the complications, she lived in a city known for its dirty air. Through a raspy voice and labored breathing, Lisa told me she was a regular meditator and often communicated with angels and the unseen realms. She easily went into a very deep trance. The healing angels escorted her to view a life in Atlantis, where she was also a healer. She was able to describe her healing practice at that time in quite wonderful detail. She used crystals then too, but in different ways. She had a large room constructed around an enormous crystal, and there were ceremonies and colors used in healing physical and emotional issues of the people in her community. During the portion of the session where we talked to the higher self, I asked why we were shown the Atlantean life. The higher self explained that she had experienced many, many incarnations as a healer, and she was continuing that experience in her current life. I then asked the higher self why Lisa was born so early and why she had the breathing challenges. That question was answered in this way. The scarred lungs and limited breathing were a planned event that acted something like speed breaks in Lisa's life. She is a powerful healer. If she would have had all of her energy and all of her capabilities in place during the 1960s and 70s, she would have had difficulty being accepted for her talents in her family and her culture at that time. The asthma and diminished lung capacity slowed her down so that she would progress gradually and have smaller healing achievements and discoveries over time than if she was completely physically healthy. I then said, well, times are certainly different now, and we as a society are more accepting of this type of healing. The higher self replied, true. I then asked, does she need to have the speed breaks, the lung condition now? The higher self said, no, it is no longer necessary. It has achieved its intended purpose. I then asked if healing of her lungs could be granted immediately. The higher self said, yes. And at that point, I watched as wave after wave after wave of energy washed over and through Lisa. And I could see her body physically undulating. It was truly grand and wonderful to behold. When healing of this magnitude happens in a quantum healing session, I also definitely feel the energy myself. It's rather lovely, and it's beneficial to me personally as well. Not only because of the gratitude I feel for being able to facilitate healing for the client, but because I believe I actually often receive some of the energetic healing for my own body as a result. After some time, the higher self declared the healing complete. I asked about Lisa's medications. The higher self responded, they are no longer necessary. However, for her doctors and her own conscious peace of mind, she should slowly wean off of them, and we will mitigate any unnecessary side effects to her physical from them. I then counted her out of trance, and I don't think that I will ever forget what happened next. Lisa's eyes flew open and she sat bolt upright. She threw off the covers that she had over her body and leapt out of the bed. She started jumping around the room like a human pogo stick, sucking in deep breaths of air. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" she said over and over and over again. "Listen! Listen to me breathe!" She was whooshing air in and out of her lungs at such a rate, I really thought she might hyperventilate. But she didn't. She just kept breathing deeply with no rasp and jumping up and down. She had so much energy. At one point, she stopped and practically shouted, "You know, my knees don't hurt." "Your knees?" I asked. "You never said a thing about your knees." And Lisa said, "Well, it's because in the scheme of things, my knee pain really didn't seem to matter. I had arthritis in my knees," she said. And she started jumping up and down again, doing deep knee bends the old-fashioned kind where people held out their arms in front of them. And I just was giggling along with her. And now my knees don't hurt. Not at all. Nothing hurts. Nothing hurts. And I can breathe. I can breathe. Oh my God, I can breathe. In the debrief, Lisa described the vision of angels surrounding her and the presence of the Christ consciousness standing behind them. Her eyes sparkled as she described the beings who assisted in her healing. Are all quantum healing sessions this dramatic? No. Do all of them result in immediate, undeniable healing? Again, no. But it happens often enough to make this work extraordinary and wonderful and worth a few hours' investment to give it a try. Many sessions provide similar dramatic healing, but over time, meaning the healing was and is done and complete on the etheric level during the session. But sometimes it takes some time to manifest on the physical level. I have often asked the higher self why this is so. And some of the reasons for immediate healing are full and total forgiveness of self and others, readiness to make a change, and the vibratory state to allow it to occur. Usually this also means the lessons were fully learned. Some of the reasons for a delay in healing are that the person, their doctor, or their family's belief system require a slower improvement to be accepted as real. Or sometimes changes still need to be made in terms of lifestyle, or forgiveness, or understanding. Lisa contacted me several weeks after her session. Her healing remained manifest, and she was only taking small remnants of the medications she had been prior to the appointment, and she was planning on stopping them altogether in time. It's like beginning life all over again, she told me. Having the sweet pleasure of deep, easy breathing is such a blessing. And it helps me remain energized to help others in my work. Thank you for the work you and Dolores Cannon and the others who practice quantum healing do. It is truly a gift from God Himself. Sometimes people ask, how exactly does such a thing happen? How could a pair of lungs, shriveled and scarred and compromised terribly since a premature birth more than 6 decades prior, magically turn into full-size, functioning, healthy lungs? How is this even remotely possible? I mean, you can simply say it was a miracle, and yes, it was. But how? I have thought of this session now for more than a decade, and since then have facilitated countless more sessions and have watched other miraculous healings take place. One way to think about this is in terms of the concept we often talk about as quantum healers of time. We've been told there really isn't such a thing as time at all, over and over again. Time, we are told, is a human construct, especially the idea of a singular and unchanging, linear timeline. If you can accept the idea of past lives and multiple timelines, one way you can think of what happened to Lisa was that her spirit grew and matured and realized itself and its goals to such an extent that she was able to continue her life and her sole purpose, understanding how deeply connected she was and is with all of her other lifetimes, while choosing to live in a healthy body that possibly never was born early at all, but was born perfectly healthy. What if Lisa's higher self was able to shift Lisa's spirit, her life, her energetic perspective to a timeline where she never experienced the birth defect at all? If we all have limitless versions of ourselves living on limitless timelines, and our higher selves and angels and other forces can assist, maybe we can just refocus and merge into or switch into that timeline where a certain physical challenge never was there to begin with. It is said that the only thing that is ever really and truly real is the now moment. Everything else, both past and future, is just energy and potentials. Now, I do not claim to fully know or truly understand the detailed mechanics of what happened to Lisa or others who experience miraculous, spontaneous healings. Maybe no human truly can. But maybe we can believe that wonderful things are possible. And maybe, just maybe, it is a kind of quantum jumping or reality creation. Maybe you too can merge into a timeline, a different timeline, and bring about dramatic and positive changes to your own life.